The lines on the floor are there for a reason, Owen, you know.
Oh, sorry, are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh, I never talk to you like that. That was an act. I don't ever... You know what's funny is that on these, right?
Go on.
People on videos, like I'll get you with a zinger, you know, and you'll act like, you'll act all nice, but you're actually a prick, like, and people don't know that. People think...
I think people would be shocked by how poorly we treat each other.
People think I'm really mean to you. And someone said this in a video a few weeks ago, and it's like, yeah, it's good to see Dara getting his own back.
No, you're very mean to me. It's one-way street.
And if you saw how Dara...
If you saw how he treats me when you're not here.
If you know how we talk to each other in the office is why we can never have someone else working in the office with us.
Highly toxic, yeah.
There's a reason why all the athletes all the employees are remote.
No, it simply would not work.
So welcome back to the shit talk. We should really call this something else, but it's too late now.
I don't think we should.
I'll tell you what, is YouTube never lets us put ads on these, really, or they're limited ads. I assume it's just flashlight ads. And
I think it's problematic,
What are those blue pills you were taking, you said, for Valentine's Day? Were they some kind of B vitamins, was it?
I was shooting for all of Valentine's Day, so I certainly hope I wasn't.
Hey!
Certainly hope it wasn't Viagra I was taking. Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's...
So we're back in the flow of it now.
Are we?
I don't know why I'm putting on my glasses to read this because I'm actually short-sighted.
Why are you afraid to put glasses on for videos? People know you're a nerd.
Yeah, I know, but it's just I feel better about myself without the glasses on. Also,
yeah.
I bought these new glasses without looking at them, and they're much bigger than my old glasses, and there's just 2/3 of my eye have... It just looks like I'm wearing giant glasses. It looks like these are joke glasses.
There, I can assure you, they look the exact same as every glasses I've seen you wear for the last...
Simply not true. It's because you don't pay any attention to
10 to 11 years.
So I wrote the script today.
Yeah, let's see where this goes.
No, there's a few things popped into my head that I thought would be ample.
We were banger after banger here now, and we're
banger after banger.
Go on.
So my first question is, right, people, there's all these chefs making like their last meal, like last meal you'll ever eat, or like basically it came along because there was this guy doing a trend where he made the last meal of every death row inmate that he could find, and it was just all these crazy feasts and stuff, and then some chefs started doing it. But I was thinking about what would be the last meal you'd be most annoyed to eat. So if you died out of the blue, like a tragic squatting accident or like a car crash,
right,
what would be the last meal you'd be most annoyed to eat?
As in, not like I'm on death row, but like...
No, like you'd be so annoyed. Or if you knew like the ships were coming and you're like, this is the last thing I'm going to eat.
A really shit pizza, I think.
Really?
Like a really bad frozen pizza, or...
The ones that the base is way too thick.
You know what? Actually, it'd be worse than a bad frozen pizza. Is a really terrible Italian pizza.
Yes.
You know, like a really bad one where there's like not enough cheese, too much sauce, little bits of mozz.
Yeah. There's basically a pita bread with stuff on it.
Yeah, like that would be really, really... Because like you don't get any flavour. Like everyone knows pizzas are nutritionally devoid of anything, but all you get is
happiness,
carbs and fat, you know. The ones that are easiest to get, really.
My one would be, do you know sometimes when you get a pasta dish, maybe it's like a buffet or something, and you get a pasta dish, and it's just full of those weird overcooked vegetables and there's no chicken in it. And the only chicken in it is that kind of like hyper processed rubbery chicken.
Do you remember when we were in Qatar and the hotel we were staying at downstairs had an Indian restaurant, but nobody else ate in the Indian restaurant? So when we booked the hotel, you got a breakfast and some meals included. And normally the restaurants in loads of countries are just nondescript. They blend in with the hotel.
Yeah.
But this was very distinctly an Indian restaurant.
Very, yeah.
Unbelievable. I'd take in
good.
4 kilos of
The
butter.
weird thing with that though is it was like Indian dinner food for breakfast. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, joy.
I
dream of it every day.
Onion bhajis and then some frozen chicken nuggets and curry sauce for breakfast.
Yeah, like it was what a time to be alive, really.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that.
What?
No.
What?
I just like things to be a bit more plain in the morning.
Oh, you don't have much of an appetite?
No.
I don't either now, really.
Yeah, I just, like, there's nothing wrong with coffee and a bit of hunger in the morning.
I, basically at the moment, I either have whey and the yogurt mixed, or I'll have literally just a protein shake.
The thing that, the whey and yogurt for me, the problematic side is, you know, it's a little gritty. Like the whey doesn't really mix in right.
No, they mix really well if you mix them.
Like...
Oh yeah, but if you just get really good quality yogurt, I find, or zero fat, makes better for some reason.
Oh,
But most of them taste weird, to be honest, when you mix them. None of them taste great.
yeah. My other, as I was thinking about this, my other meal I'd be most annoyed to eat is when you get chips from a not great takeaway that are dry and not crispy at the same time. Do you know those kind? Where they kind of cook them a bit too, the oil was a bit too cold.
Mm-hmm.
They never get crispy on the outside, but they're also dry. Like they're not like non-crispy chipper chips.
Have you seen that food van that goes around Cork and it tells you where it's going to be?
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Have you gone to it?
No, a few of the lads have.
Have they said it's good?
I've heard some group chat murmurings about it.
What did the group chat say about it?
Very good reviews, yeah.
We were going to do it on the bank holiday weekend there recently, but maybe I might try look for it tomorrow. Oh, I might. Oh, yes, I'm taking the day off tomorrow, so I might go look for it.
They also do a thing where they, sorry, they don't do a thing, but they also sell out of a load of things pretty early, which is always a great sign in my mind. I love to see that. You know, when you're at a restaurant and they're like, we're sold out of the beef.
Yeah. I love the culinary experience. I love restaurants. I don't think you do, but
No.
I love, for one of my birthdays a couple of years ago, my wife took me to a restaurant in Kinsale, and it was like 3 tables, I think. She did book it pretty far in advance, and it was pretty saucy.
Wait, 3 tables in the whole restaurant?
Yeah, and there was like 1 at the bar or something.
That's incredible.
And they talked you through each thing. And there was this herb from Mexico that tasted like bubblegum. Like a little leafy herb. Looked like mint from my eyes. And it tasted exactly like strawberry bubblegum.
No way.
Yeah.
I don't like those dining experiences.
What? Why don't you like them?
I just feel it's nothing to do with the experience. The experience is always great, or usually it's great.
Yeah.
But I just feel really out of place there.
Yeah, you are a fucking cretin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I do not fit in. Like we went.
Well, if you wore clean clothes for once, you might fit in, you know.
If I get the clean clothes lecture again today. No, I'm all good.
Did Afri give it to you earlier in the out?
We went to like a big shopping mall, Nahan Point, many will know it, on Tuesday evening. We're getting food, and I can't remember what else we might have been going to Tesco or something. And I got changed, right? I was destroyed, limping around the place from a hard morning's training. I was in a bad way, and I just put on tracksuit pants and a black crew neck like this.
Mm-hmm.
But before leaving the house, we obviously left Merple Durples out to go to the toilet.
Of course.
He came in, 2 paws straight up in the back, and was kind of like climbing up my back. So I was covered in mud and clay on my back. And then before he left, I did like the customary little hug, but he jumped up as well. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize how dirty I was, but I in fact looked like a miner, like covered in mud.
On an island somewhere.
And
did someone give out to you about it?
It got to the strange point where I was actually kind of embarrassed about my appearance.
No, you were embarrassed with your appearance?
Yeah.
No fucking way.
Never. I actually can't think of too many other times that's ever happened. Sorry, I can't think of a single other time it's ever happened to me as an adult. And I have some embarrassing appearances.
I actually don't think you should be too embarrassed as an individual about what you wear. Like, kind of, in some ways, I'm like, fuck everyone. But then there is certain social situations where you're just disrespectful. So
no, 100%.
You shouldn't be like self-conscious of what people think of you. Mostly because people don't care or it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I think like if you show up to a wedding and you were wearing Converse with your suit, I'm kind of like, oh, what are you
Gurph,
doing?
I told you for your wedding my shirt was dirty and ripped for a reason.
But one place I'm really self-conscious of is when I'm with my son, I actually really make an effort to wear nicer clothes. Yeah, I feel like I owe him to not be dressed lazily.
The one place I think, or the one place where I start thinking, God Almighty, I am not properly dressed for here, is if I'm out for dinner somewhere in a restaurant and somebody's bringing their like family out for dinner, and they have to sit next to a tramp, like me, you know, like you're bringing their experience down.
Yes,
which I undoubtedly am.
Yeah, you're beholden other people in terms of just respect for people.
Absolutely. And if somebody's going out and buying a meal for people and like making a nice evening for someone, and there's a smelly, dirty, stressed looking person sitting at the table next to them, like you're belittling their experience. Like,
do you know what you probably shouldn't think about too much, but it does bear thinking about sometimes?
Don't bring up the stars and shit again, will you?
No, you have free will. Yeah. You can do anything within your capacity and resources to do whenever you want to do it. Mm-hmm. You can go and live in the Burren naked. You could go right now. You could drive out there and just stay. You could do anything you wanted to do. Do you know that?
I know.
You could leave and go to America. No, not America. You can't go to America. No, you can't. But you could go to Europe or South America and just not come back and not text them. You could go right now. You could drive to Dublin, not tell anyone.
That's amazing, isn't
Isn't that crazy, though? People don't think about that enough, I think. You don't have to take it that extremes, but it sounds stupid when you say it out loud. It sounds like something you're saying when you're smoking weed or something.
Yeah.
But you literally can do anything you want.
But I think a lot of people don't realise that on the tiniest scale of like, they'll finish work in the evening and they might get home at 6:30 or 7. Mm-hmm. They're like, I can't do anything for the evening now and I
never get that. What the fuck is that about?
But you can do anything.
Yeah.
Like you can go to the beach. You can go wherever you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's just dark now.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay at home and watch Netflix just because it's nighttime. You can do whatever you want.
Ireland really comes into its own, I feel like, coming up to Paddy's Day.
I'm getting so excited for the long evenings.
And then it just hits a roll up until like late September.
Oh, it keeps getting better as well.
Then it holds you down and kicks you in the head for a couple of months.
It really makes you pay. You rob the happiness from the winter.
It's happening a bit earlier this year now, I feel like. The birds are out way too early. We've been hearing them since January, which we shouldn't be hearing.
Yes.
There is, so it's obviously, climate change is something that's somewhat controversial, which is crazy. Some people argue about like the existential threat it is for people or whatever, and people argue about the data, but it's hard to deny the presence of climate change.
Yeah.
Even if you look at it in Ireland, since definitely in the last even 10 years.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But if you're involved in the ecosystem in any way, you know, if you're regularly deer hunting or something like that, or if you're picking mushrooms or whatever it is, you would see a lot of these changes that are completely irregular, you know.
Yeah.
I can still remember watching Al Gore's movie.
Oh, I remember watching that, yeah.
He talked about all that stuff. So people worry about, you know, they say things like it won't kill us that much or whatever, or the tipping point is wrong, like that 1.5 degrees shouldn't be called the tipping point or whatever.
Yes.
And I'm totally open to all of those discussion points or whatever, you know. And I don't even feel incredibly strongly about climate change, as in I don't feel like I have to go convincing people or whatever. But it is undeniable, like, changes that are happening.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of countries in the world deny that.
Yeah.
Because it's only political, really, in one country.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I see it a bit in Ireland too, though. A little bit.
No, you see in Ireland where people aren't allowed to cut turf in the bogs, and they're like, "This is mental. I want to cut turf."
No, I don't know. I think you do see it a bit in Ireland.
I don't think you see many climate change deniers. Like, everybody is like, "Oh, it's way warmer now."
Yeah.
And the winters are mental, and we have way more of these massive storms.
We're due to get warmer for a while, and then I think if the North Atlantic drift just kind of stops, we're going to get very, very cold.
Yes.
Now, one of the good things about Ireland is in doomsday scenario, like if things keep going crazy.
Right.
We are
this always becomes apocalyptic, doesn't it?
But don't worry about that. We're very likely to be one of the nations who can still produce a lot of food regularly.
Yeah. There's a big, massive old house and estate down in West Cork in Skib, where my cousin got married. And
Bantry? Oh, Skibbereen.
In Skib, yeah. And the Swiss government bought that after World War II.
Right.
And it was basically like a safe holding where if all their dignitaries needed to go somewhere. So it was far enough away from mainland Europe that they thought if kind of nuclear fallout happened in Europe, it would be pretty safe. It was also enough land where they could grow their own food. They had access to the sea and stuff. It's crazy to think about that governments were planning like that.
What do you think about the thought that, so like there's a minimum requisite information to have certain conversations, and you can talk about this in any form of conversation. So if it comes to like sports science, and maybe we were talking about the use of power cleans versus weighted jumps, but someone comes along and be like, what? How do we even know S&C does anything, you know? And you can't waste time trying to talk to someone about S&C or lifting weights actually is beneficial for athletes, you know? There's like minimum requisite conversations to have. But then when comes to things like this, like at what point is it patronizing, or at what point is it just like almost irrational to keep having those conversations with people that it's happening and focus more on mitigating it? You know, like at what point are you just like obviously we're not climate change scientists, you know?
Yeah.
At what point are you like it must be painful for them. It must be,
yeah.
Lifelong work.
Especially if you're involved in litigating or litigating around minimizing effects or trying to minimize those effects on a large scale.
Yeah.
That must be so painful. Being like, you'll have to stop burning plastic in your back garden.
I don't. No.
My general rule in life is try not to convince anyone of anything unless it's a particular area of. I've like 2 or 3 areas that I would make my opinions on, and then in everything else, I'm just like,
That's a good way to be. I think that's the way I think a lot about things. My big thing with climate change. Oh fuck! What was I going to say? Oh my god! I just wiped my memory.
That's the government getting in and just like bleep. That's bleep.
The fuck? Oh my god! What the fuck was I going to say?
What would be very exciting is the thought of regular snow every winter in Ireland, and possibly having less ticks because of it.
The frost just isn't killing enough of those ticks anymore.
There's none of them now. Do you know it was 19 degrees? So yesterday was the 14th of February.
Yeah.
It was 19 degrees Celsius climbing that mountain Culling yesterday.
19 degrees?
19 degrees. I was wearing Stony Creek long jacket and I had like a jumper like this. I have 15 of these jumpers.
Yeah.
I had one of these on underneath and literally I'd say 40 minutes in, had to take the jacket off and take the jumper off and put the jacket back on. Craziness.
You know what climate
Sopping
change?
wet. I was like an otter's pocket.
I just thought of it. My big thing has been the individual responsibility that was placed on people in an absolutely unfeasible fashion.
Yes.
Remember reduce, reuse, recycle?
Yeah.
Like all of these things, when massive companies have known about it for so long and have done nothing about it and have repressed a lot of information, like that used to always really annoy me. Like there's nothing you as an individual can do in the time frame that was given to us where there was like critical tipping points. So if you go over that 1.5 degrees, like what are you supposed to do as an individual within your resources that's going to make a meaningful difference?
There's probably 20 individuals in the world who can make that on their own. Like if you've more than €1 billion, you can probably spearhead a project that will make some difference.
Yeah.
But like the 2 boys here aren't going to make a bit of difference.
Like even the arguments, and I'm sure they're valid about like the resource issue with getting like electric cars or whatever. We were looking at something really interesting yesterday, and or 2 days ago, and I'd never thought of this, but the amount of oil used per food produced, per calorie produced.
Yeah.
So it compared broccoli, bread, and chicken, and grams of protein and calories. And broccoli was abysmal, the amount of oil it needed per. So it was like, was it per gram of broccoli versus per mil of oil? And chicken was the best. Chicken had like 2,500 calories, 150 grams of protein, and like something like 0.09 grams of oil, something like that. But I'd never thought about it in that metric before.
No. I think as well that does change massively depending on what country you're in. Probably
not that much when you think about it though.
Yeah, I think, if you're eating smashed avocado toast every morning, you're burning quite a bit of jet fuel.
I don't think it would, no, but on a global scale, it wouldn't really, like, it's not going to move the average, I don't think. Because there's a minimum, like, unless you're going out your backyard and getting it.
That's what I mean. If every country stayed with their food, the way it should be.
They're actually, the talk of organic farming is unbelievably unfeasible.
Yeah, I've seen a good bit of stuff on that in the last few months.
We used to have organic beef in Ireland was a very interesting thing for a while. You used to get a lot of very good money for organic beef.
Yes.
But the stipulations were very strict.
Yeah.
But the money for it's gone a lot lower.
It's funny because
you following the price of heifers at the moment.
a lot of the stuff we watch on a regular basis about like sport and fitness nutrition is coming from the US. And they're like how terrible beef is and how expensive grass-fed beef is.
Yeah.
And then you just go to a shop in Ireland and you're like, oh, yeah, it's all grass-fed.
That is actually interesting. So a lot of our news used to be very American-centric for a while. But now I feel like it's shifted a bit more global in the last couple of months.
Yes, which definitely isn't a bad thing.
To be honest, it's all bad, really.
Oh, I never, ever, ever watch news.
But it used to be, say, remember when Donald Trump was getting elected? Like, it was so annoying. Our media was just so focused on it. Even the UK media was focused on it. Now I feel like things are a little bit more global.
I also feel like, so in the last 2 US presidential elections, I feel like there was way more coverage of it than what there is this time. Like, there's an election in the US this year, isn't there?
I think so, yeah.
I feel like if it was the first time Trump was coming in, like 2 elections ago, that election campaign was
unbelievable.
Everywhere.
It was so annoying.
Everywhere. Everyone was talking about it.
And I don't even mean that to signal out America, but if there was any other country's
If there was
election,
any political thing taking up that much bandwidth, I would.
we're very likely due in a general election here this year in Ireland, you know, and currently you'd probably still hear more about the American election coming up in some regards.
It's mental.
Which is so stupid.
It has literally no effect unless they pull the massive multinationals out of Ireland, at which point it would have a very large effect.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about the GDP in Ireland. So we've like one of the highest in the world, but the people is no good. Dublin is literally one of the most expensive cities in the world.
Yeah.
When you take in like rent and food and stuff.
Yeah. It's mental as well how inflated that GDP is when you consider that's coming from 10 to 15 massive companies that are corporations are based in Ireland. All of that corporation tax comes into Ireland. So Ireland's GDP is massive.
Yes.
But it's not like those phones and those laptops and those drugs are being sold all over the world.
Yeah.
It just funnels through Ireland.
Now, to be fair, the state makes a lot of money.
Absolutely, yeah.
A fuck ton of money.
And the country's kept very well. It is. When you compare to many, many, many countries.
Is that right, though?
What
Is that right to compare it to places where you're like, it could be worse? I don't think you should.
I think generally speaking, we have things very, very good here.
But I think people's argument is it should be a lot better.
Yes.
And there's no, I think
but
the
not
argument,
everybody can be Sweden. Like there always has to be
Sweden or
second
not.
place.
Sweden,
You
most
told me a
dangerous.
few months ago Sweden was amazing.
I never said Sweden was amazing.
Which country? Denmark?
No, I don't remember. Sweden has like a major gang problem now.
Gangs?
Yeah?
In Sweden?
Have you not heard about the gang thing going on?
Snowshoeing around the place, mugging people.
No, like bombing people and stuff.
What?
Have you not heard about anything?
Sorry, wait. Reset here a sec.
So there's
Sweden, up here.
Sweden. So any Swedish
The
people
top.
listening, which there is many, feel free to chime in here in the comments and tell me if I'm off the
A
mark.
gang war.
So they're now compared to obviously maybe some American cities or South American places, their murder rate is very, very high. Like shooting, it's the most, I think, in Europe, the most likely place here to be shot. So
What?
there was like 60 people murdered in like one city 2 or 3 years ago.
Murder.
They're using bombs a lot for a reason. So in Sweden, still the case currently is when you are under the age of 21, you can't be sent to jail. And if you're under the age of 18, you can't be convicted. You can only be sent to, even of like of murder and stuff, you'd be
Like
sent
a
to
minor can.
not even a minor facility or something, like to a foster home, like some kind of secure foster home. I don't know the details of that specifically, but what they were doing was like putting bombs in like thermos flasks, and a woman horribly was killed with the accidental leaving of a bomb at the wrong address. A lot of this, I think the statistic was like 1,200 child soldiers in Sweden.
What?
Yeah, no, we don't want to talk about this too much because there's a big
the implications.
big, which we know nothing about. I only know the statistics. I was reading about them the other day, but Sweden has a huge gang problem in regards to this going on, basically. So the big problem is they're getting loads of illegal guns in, and obviously Sweden's coast is massive, hugely undefended, so it's incredibly easy to get illegal guns in. Most of them coming from the Czech Republic, I think, from the wars in the 90s. Loads of guns left over, so probably like AKs, FALs maybe. Were the AUGs?
No, I'd say it. So Czech have CZ.
Oh, CZ, of course.
Yeah, and then a lot of AKs.
So they're very reliable guns coming into the country. They're accurate and they're easy to clean. So huge problem. Now, in relation to like some place in the world, it's nothing, but in relation to Europe, it's like crazy.
That is mental.
Had you not heard about this?
Gurph, in my mind, Sweden is a forested wonderland. That
It was like that apparently. In like the early 2000s, they had like 2 murders in like a couple of years or something.
No way.
2 homicides from a gun or something. Was tiny.
and now it's all kicking off.
So I suppose like
Do you remember we had gang wars here?
we still do, I suppose.
No, but like there was like the big gang problem in Limerick, and Limerick was called Stab City, and then that was all cleared up, and now the cartels.
Well, that was
in
only cleared
Dublin,
up because they started shooting each other.
Yeah, they kind of cleared each other up. But does that have an effect on your daily life if you're living in Sweden?
Well, if
You wake up, feed the reindeer,
yeah,
like get your little wood stove going, get on the snowmobile, go to the shop.
yeah.
Like, am I completely wrong and Sweden is actually a country like every other? Or is it just everyone living in isolated cabins?
I'm pretty sure Sweden is just like normal other countries.
That's disappointing.
But they, yeah.
Where so could I find an isolated, lovely little spot?
To exercise your free will.
Oh my God, America. No, just to like, I thought Sweden had it fairly locked down.
They did, apparently, up until about 10 years ago.
Denmark is supposed to be great.
Apparently their taxes are ridiculously high.
But you can't have it. You can't have it all, you know.
But I was reading about their like cost of like childcare per month was something like one couple were saying it was costing like $2,000 a month, which
To look
actually
after a child.
no, to get someone else to look after a child while they both worked, which to be honest isn't that much more than it's about maybe a couple $100 more than Ireland, but still.
Yeah. Anyway, the next thing on the agenda.
Yeah, get away from hot topics.
Yeah.
The problem with climate change and stuff is you annoy people. Like there's some people listening.
Yeah, don't be annoyed, lads.
Our normal listeners don't get annoyed by these things.
No.
They just chime in.
No, it's the newbies get annoyed.
Or the randoms.
Yeah.
Remember the YouTube took down the thing about the double rights? Or didn't take it down. I've never gotten a flag like that.
Suppression order.
Yeah, what the fuck is that about?
The fact that I was wearing a black puffy jacket with my hood up as well definitely didn't help.
Go on in.
So my parents started training in the gym, right?
Of course.
And it's something I've been trying to get them to do for ages. And then Teddy started an older people's class in the gym.
Okay.
So they're flying it after weeks of pressuring them and forcing them to go in there, and they did it, right?
Of course.
And you'd think that, like, because they're my parents, they're not going to have the usual gripes or say the same things that everyone else would say. Mm-hmm. Exact same as every other member who's ever joined the gym in their entire life. My mother was like, oh, yeah, I just feel like I need to warm up more, and then I'm very stiff after it.
Well, your mother's very well educated in that fashion, to be fair.
It's a woman who ran a sport and exercise science department in a third level institution for 15 years, probably, at the end of her career. And I was like, you didn't think about going to the gym earlier and hopping on the rowing machine or anything? She's like, yeah, maybe I could do that, yeah. And then it came on to like, but I'm very stiff, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, and are you stretching and like kind of mobilizing things? No, I'm not. And I was like, and on the days you're not training, what are you doing? The usual, you know, might go for a walk or something. And I was like, literally everything in my being is to make you, I just assumed that would come in through osmosis, where they'd be like, oh, I'm going to show up 15 minutes early, do a bit of extra warm-up. Dad, on the other hand, said he definitely doesn't want more of a warm-up. He's like, no, that's grand. We'll drive separately. You can hop on the rowing machine beforehand. But you think, like, we always talk about, like, group classes and people having, like, this... Because you've someone coaching you, because you're training with other people, there's kind of a disconnect and you're not responsible. Or it's not your job to look after yourself, basically. Which, to a certain extent, with like the coaching and the programming, you do get to allocate that to someone else.
Yeah.
But when it's like on the rest days and stuff, you're still in charge. You're in charge of yourself for the other 23 hours of the day.
Yeah.
It brings up an interesting point of like the athletes who run their own training or even coach themselves, or maybe they go out and buy a program and run that program themselves. Although you have control over everything, and I think they do look after themselves a small bit better. Like, I think they look after their recovery a small bit better. Maybe they look after their warm up and cool down a bit better. Maybe they look after their nutrition a bit better, purely because they haven't given that responsibility to someone else, you know?
I suppose to talk about something we are actually knowledgeable in.
Yeah.
For once on this shit talk. We were talking about this in regards to like jiu-jitsu classes or CrossFit classes, and it's the undeniable and infinite problem of group class training is not only do you have a limited period of time to train people and progress them across one or a variety of things. Like in jiu-jitsu, an hour and a half is just barely enough time. An hour across the class was never enough time, and it still isn't really. They should really be 90 minutes. But business models and stuff aside, the big thing then is not even only look at that individual hour you're talking about at what point in the year is someone joining. Like, if right is right, you have a multi-year plan for an individual, or rather a multi-year direction that you take them in as they progress accordingly. But it's a horrible problem to have if you want, and the problem is you need people to progress, but you don't have the time or the capacity, and they need to be training in a group. It's a very, very tough problem.
It's so hard, and I've written CrossFit gym or S&C style gym programming for multiple gyms over the years. Like right there, programming for every class for the week.
Yeah.
Hand it over to them. And the more in depth and the more thought out that plan is, oftentimes leads to a much harder onboarding of the new member who comes in, you know. Because like if you're, so say you're programming for general population CrossFit.
Yeah.
Their best option is to do a cycle where they do a lot of strength and hypertrophy training. Sorry, a training block.
Yeah,
where they do a lot of strength and hypertrophy
cycle.
training. We just throw that word around it here. A lot of strength and hypertrophy training and some conditioning, and then they do a lot of skill work and a bit more conditioning, and then they do a lot of conditioning work with a small bit of maintenance strength. But if you get so say you start that in January, it's 4 months, 4 months, 4 months, and that's your year done. But then if you get somebody in, and that person joins halfway through the skill acquisition stuff, and although you'll have scalings and regressions and progressions for each of the movement, and they'll be able to do the movements, they might be hopping into a, say, hanging from the bar or a pull-up progression on week 6. So week 6 of 12, they're doing a scaled version. So they might be doing ring rows or inverted rows instead of from a pull-up bar or from a set of rings. But they're still doing the sets and reps of week 6 and not week 1.
Yeah.
Or you get somebody coming into the gym, and this used to happen all the time, where this person might want to be, okay, they might want to gain a bit of muscle mass, and they might want to be a bit bigger and stronger, and they're coming to an S&C facility to do that. But now suddenly that S&C facility is in a 2.5 or 3 month block where they're really focusing on their aerobic conditioning, because 50% or 40% of the members are going to do the CrossFit Open, and they have to be ready for those Metcons there, you know. It's a very hard, it's an almost impossible task to have that perfect flow of programming where people are going to, firstly, make progress as efficiently and as well as they possibly could, but then also get somebody on board who's going to be able to jump in at week 4, or jump in at week 10, or jump in at week 16 and still get really good benefit from it.
You see some online trainers seem to do this thing where they do like onboarding intakes for a period of time, and then they run that program, and then they onboard people again, but they like people to come on at certain time points, and they have a certain business model. A lot of them seem to do that. Obviously, you're really closing your gates for people once the ship has left the harbour.
100%, yeah.
Like getting new people on board is a problem. Now, it's obviously not a problem if you get enough people on, and you move, and I suppose people have that sense of shared direction when they're doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, I actually really like that model. I know a few people who've coached like that and done nutritional stuff like that. Everyone starts on day 1. You might have a month or 2 of sign-ups. Everybody starts on week 1. They all run through that 4 month or that 6 month period. But then the problem is, at the end of that 4 month or 6 month, most people aren't going to sign up to another really intensive block like that.
You don't even need to make it too intensive, but it would be an interesting model for a CrossFit style gym. If you could justify with the members, you could charge enough and cover your overheads and make profit or whatever, is like have those kind of intakes in real life and be like, look, we're not taking anyone on. But it would be a good sell, because you could be like, look, it's really directed, we're really progressive here, we want the best for you as an individual, we're ensuring you're getting a great product here, so you can't join for another 2 months, unfortunately, and you did like 8-week blocks. Yeah. I think if you were maybe a smaller style gym, you could probably do that if you charge enough and made yourself a bit more exclusive. Yeah. So what I hate is if you listen to any kind of business consultant in any area, where it's in this or any kind of like any business you can think of, the answer is always like, charge more, perceived quality, and you're like, yeah, that's fucking useless advice. That's the most useless advice you can ever tell anyone. And there's a load of those kind of gurus at the moment, and it's just, just charge more, and you're like, yeah, that's great advice. I'm hesitant to even mention this, but there's somebody we know, you don't know him, is like gone out into the business guru side of things. Korean Jesus.
No.
Okay.
No, from 22 Jump Street. 21 Jump Street. Anyway, and this thing of like, you need to have this air of perceived authority about things, you know? Yeah. But you can't sell somebody a product and suddenly make their perceived quality higher. No. Like, you can't do that as a coach in the same way where you can't sell somebody a training program or you can't sell somebody a coaching service and immediately their perceived quality gets higher. And that, I think that's the problem with the business coaching side of things, is like, I cannot make someone a better dentist if I'm a business coach. In the same way where if a business coach came to us, he can't suddenly increase the quality of us as S&C coaches. You can change some of their turnover and stuff, and maybe their client retention is better. Maybe you can change how they run the business, but you cannot educate that person on whatever their speciality is.
I think we've been in business for this is our 7th year in business now, I think, maybe. And you've been a bit of a serial business owner. Yeah. I think at no point would I be like able to give someone a business advice.
No.
Because I think it's all incredibly individual.
No.
Maybe I could give someone a business advice in the exact same situation as us, but like, other than finances, there is no course that you could really go learn. Like, you could get financially savvy. There is specific tactics you could use, maybe like social media stuff.
Yeah, marketing, sales,
yeah,
those tactics.
But there's no like global business advice that you could give someone that I think could transfer. Like, right now, I have no machinations on how anyone might run a business. No. There's nothing I'd be like, you really have to do this. I'm not even sure. Now, maybe we would, but if we were doing a different style of business, I'm sure we'd make it work, but you'd only learn by doing it, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's very hard as well, because there's certain pieces of advice are so important at certain periods.
Yeah.
And unless you hear that at the right time, it's either completely over the person's head or else it's too late for them to have heard that. And they're like about specific financial things, specific marketing things, specific courses or upskilling that you think employees should have. Mm-hmm. And like, unless you're like everybody to a T, and to be honest, people who are slightly older or even worse from this, everybody wants to give you advice about things, Like, I think that'd be, what would be so great for you to do now is that if you did, you could start coaching a gym class twice a week in the city, and you get so many people signed up.
I actually hate that advice. I hate those advices.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah.
Or you really, why don't you get into doing more of the hoodies? Like, the hoodies sell really well for you.
Yeah.
You're like, you have no idea about anything,
Yeah, people do love trying out those pieces of advice. Now, sometimes it is from people who actually know what they're talking about, so you do listen.
Yeah.
But
my advice is like, you shop around for an accountant as if you're shopping around for a business partner. Like, you should be dating accountants for a while. You should be getting to know the accountant. That's a very, very important one.
We've known a good few people who've kind of gotten into this industry over the last few years, and I never offered any advice in various forms, like going from, working in an office job to teaching spin classes or whatever, and never do I offer advice. I'm super conscious of it. One, because I don't know if my advice is any useful, and also you don't want to offer advice from a place of perceived further along the chain, which might alter their success in a bad way or a good way. And you don't want to offer advice where you're like, spin classes are stupid. You should start teaching as TRX classes.
Those TRX classes are great, and people look great when they're doing them.
Yeah, so I'm always like, how's that going? I wish the best of them,
Yeah.
But sometimes, to be honest, I want to say to them, I'm like, I don't think you're the right person for this.
Oh, when they're leaving the job they currently have.
Sometimes someone's doing it and I'm like, it'll be tough work, but I think you'll manage. Sometimes I'm really apprehensive for people. Not apprehensive for people. I am really sympathetic of the hill they have to climb,
Yeah.
But we both did it ourselves, so. But I'm always really like, fuck, I really hope it works out for him. But then there's some people where there's an added element where I'm like, I really hope. And then inevitably you see them there in like a year's time, they've gone back or whatever, which is fine. And it's good for them to try, I suppose. But
yeah.
There's sometimes I really wish I could be like, I don't think you should do this.
It's a hard gig too as well, because especially in training, like in fitness, in the fitness industry, generally speaking, people are getting into it in their early and mid 20s. They're maybe going out on their own in their mid to late 20s, and then they have a certain amount of time to make money and to make themselves established. But what I've seen from loads of people I've known who've been coaches, loads of people who've owned gyms, is that those years, like your late 20s coming into your 30s, you're not in a position where you're making good enough money to be like buying a house or starting a family or all of that stuff. Like, they're very important years. Whereas if you had done a commerce course and you're with a big four, by the time you're in your early 30s, you're at whatever level you are in that company, you're probably, or if you're in pharma, you're in whatever level, you've jumped up maybe 2 or 3 times. Now suddenly you're at the point where things are a bit easier and they are a bit more streamlined, or it's just easier because you've a bit more capital on your side, or you're more settled in the company. Whereas a lot of people who are in this industry are in their 30s or starting into their 30s, and now suddenly maybe they've grown the business and it's doing well, but maybe the finances for a loan agent to look at their accounts be like, sure, how am I supposed to give you a mortgage? This is so inconsistent, or it's so up and down, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a tough gig. I think, especially, and like, tradies tend to go out on their own a small bit later, like mid-30s, when they're small, but like maybe they've worked for a company for 10 or 15 years and things are a bit more settled and they go out on their own and start their own thing, or loads of other industries. But it tends to be, because being actively fit yourself tends to be part of it, tends to be just a bit earlier and a bit harder, and you're a bit dumber in your 20s and you don't make decisions quite as well, or, you know.
I always feel bad, and maybe I shouldn't feel bad because I have no idea how that person feels, but you know, when you see someone, and I specifically in our industry, who leave their job, go do this stuff, and then they have to go back in a regular job or whatever, I feel bad. And I don't know if I should feel bad because I have no idea how they're feeling. Maybe they don't care, you know, maybe there's a lot worse things that could happen to you. But sometimes I do feel where I'm like, does that suck for you? And I'm like, for me, I know it would suck.
Yeah.
You know, I would classify that as a failure, you know?
Yes.
And it's not like, you know, if someone just retires early or something, you're like, nice, that's good to see. And like, we have a friend opening a gym who seems to have made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And very happy for him, and he's super happy, and that's really nice, you know.
Yeah,
he's like mid-30s, and that's really cool to see. But you only see someone leave and then they end up doing a job which is so opposite to what they were doing and you know you wanted to do. It does kind of suck.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the road either.
No, definitely not. I think as well people just change jobs and change careers so often now.
Irish people usedn't. That was never a thing.
Never a thing.
That was...
If you look at like our parents' generation or our older brothers and sisters' generation, they started something, they stuck with it the entire way through. Yeah. Now people are like, maybe they had a career in whatever, business or finance or something, and they're going back teaching, or they're going back doing something else, you know, which is great. I definitely think people should be doing that. It's just a hard gig, like.
There's I suppose this is probably universal for a lot of people in countries, but feels like there's a race for some people in some ways to like have a house, and then on top of that a lot of those people would like to have a family, you know, so you're juggling a lot of things.
Yes.
Where it can be very, very tough to try and figure out what you want to do, like meet a partner, and then you have kids. Like I was at a wedding last year, and it was one of my wife's friends, and they were together I think 4 years. They had 2 kids and a house, and marriage was like after all this.
Yes.
This was their wedding. They were like 35 or 36 maybe. So they were like, they'd gotten on it, you know.
Yeah.
Now their careers were, I think they were both finance or related.
Yeah.
So people do feel that pressure, you know.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely there. I'm going to change tack here.
Right.
Because I have a very funny story to tell.
Oh, Jesus.
You've heard the story, but it's still a funny story. We've talked about it a few times.
Right.
But we're going to talk about the incident from 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, I was out in an early frosty Sunday morning up in the mountains, and I'm not going to name the county it's in the mountains in Ireland, and big long valley, and we hunt a lot of places along the valley. There's a good few farms where we hunt deer there, and there's one farm in a particular finger that goes off this valley.
I don't know what story you're telling.
And there's a big house probably a kilometre down like an old driveway, and the house has been abandoned for quite some time. So I drove down to see if there was anyone living there, to see if I could meet the landowner, whoever manages that land currently. And I'm driving back out, right? So it's It's around -1 or 2 degrees. It's maybe 9:30 in the morning. And I see a car parked at the top of the laneway. And the car is... so I just say, great, I've been trying to call to this person for a long time. I hadn't seen that car before. I've seen the car a few times since. And I park behind it maybe 5 or 10 meters back from his back bumper, right? So imagine it's a single lane road, comes out almost to a T-junction to a very small country lane, and there's a bit of a lay-by. The road kind of widens out to a Y, and that person is parked over on the right.
The land is very flat.
Very flat.
Well, and there's mountains around it, but you're in the bottom of a valley, so it's really open.
Yes, yeah. So there's big high mountains on all sides, kind of wrapped in almost like a bowl. And so I parked 10 meters back from his bumper. I hop out. I think I took my bino harness off, threw that into the seat next to me. And usually when this happens, like someone's going to open their door or they'll open the window and they'll kind of wave back or whatever. And I'm walking up, so I'm at the back quarter panel of the car as I'm walking up, not staring in because you also don't want to be like eyeballing the person as you're walking up. But I'm walking up behind the car, and I identified as a man in his 40s, and so I can see his head kind of shaking side to side, fast enough, like a bit of movement going on there, you know. So I thought he might have been on the phone and maybe like in a heated conversation on the phone. And it's I'm not going to name the type of car, but it's kind of a crossover Jeepy thing. So there's like a back window where the boot is, there's a back window where the passenger seat is, and then there's a driver's side window. So I'm walking up, and as I come to the quarter panel, I can see the phone is kind of held out in his left hand. And obviously we drive right-hand drive cars in Ireland, so that's in the centre of the car. And I'm kind of looking at the screen of the phone as I'm walking up, and this is all happening. I'm seeing a video playing on the phone, not really registering what the video was. And I said, oh, he mustn't be on the phone. And then I kind of passed, so maybe 5 feet from the side of the car, and I'm walking diagonally to it. And then as I come to the rear passenger window on the right hand side, I realise that this is a man having a little alone time to himself in the car. I have never turned around faster in my entire life as when I walked up on a man having a wank sitting in a car in the mountain valley.
My God, did he see you?
So I turned, and I think in my turning he might have clocked it in his peripheral, because I got back in the car, and then I could kind of see all the rumbling and fidgeting going on in the car, and he drove off. And the other awkward thing is, like, you kind of commit to driving a certain direction when you come out to the end of the laneway. So I was driving behind him for a period of time, which made everything more awkward.
Were you up right behind him?
No, I didn't tail him on the way out of there. But
that is brutal.
I now can't really drive into that area without thinking of that man.
But you know what, though? That's entirely his own fault. You shouldn't feel in any way aggrieved. Like,
I really feel like I've upset his morning.
He shouldn't be out in the wilderness doing that. No matter how isolated that spot is, which is very isolated, to be fair.
Incredibly isolated, yeah.
You speculate that he probably had no reception at home on his phone.
Yeah, I've had some thoughts on it, and I think...
And at the range of fire to receive some signal.
Yeah. From where I'm guessing, I'd say he probably had to drive 2 or 3 miles to get good phone reception, to get the...
But what you need to do now, right, is go find him again and show him how to download videos off the internet.
I'm not going anywhere near that, man.
Screen record stuff. You need to show him torrents, whatever it is. I don't even know if torrents are still a thing anymore.
But, like, this is early enough in the morning as well. Like, do you wake up, put on your shoes and socks, put the kettle on and say, I'm going to pop out there quickly? I'm going to go down to the bottom of the valley, park up, sort myself out.
That's actually brutal when you put it like that. Like, at what point is he like, I'm going to drive out?
Is he on the way home? And before he gets home, he's just going to unload the rifle and make sure it's safe?
You know, you'd say one thing if he was out with the missus or something, and they're out for a little risky jaunts, and you'd be like, all right, fair enough. But
a young courting couple, maybe.
He as an individual went, I'm going out for a wank now. I'm going out into I'm going to sit into the car, and I'm going to go for a little...
Yeah.
That's like, so much forethought.
That's nightmare stuff.
That's criminal amount of forethought.
There's a lot of planning. Like, he went to bed on the Saturday night thinking, I know what I'm doing in the morning. I'm going to the shop for a bottle of milk and a wank.
That's an aggressive amount of forethought. Like, that's almost more concerning than him going out killing someone.
But what? Yeah, like I just really want to know what his situation is.
I'd imagine it's poor phone reception.
Poor phone reception is our best hope, really.
Yeah, and you just didn't even think about asking him how he's getting on, or just...
I wouldn't mind. I'd my hand up as if I was to rap on the back window, just to.
Yeah.
How's it going? Just wondering if you know if your man still owns this place.
No permission in that area now.
No, and I shudder to drive into a different house just in case I see that black car.
The crux of the situation is that you had no permission now, and you ruined his day. So both of you.
Both of us, we're at a net zero.
Do you think he went off to another spot to finish the job?
Sometimes it's happened 2 weeks ago, and sometimes I just find myself randomly thinking about that again.
But do you think he went somewhere else now, and he was like, "I'm going to finish that cunt"?
I'd say he could have gone home, and his missus was like, "What is wrong with you? You're so tense.
Yeah.
What's happened?"
Normally you come back really sweaty. Your drive.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
You know, not more sinister in some ways when you think about it.
That is.
It could be like.
It could be. I actually, but so you're thinking it's sinister, and you'd say it's sinister because he's out in the wilderness doing it, you know?
Yeah.
But in every way possible, it's far less sinister than him being in the back of the Tesco car park doing it.
That's fair. Yeah, that's
because
fair.
that's a whole other bucket of gravy. Like
he's wrong there. Like,
is he though?
He is wrong. I think he's wrong.
What I don't understand is like why he wouldn't, like that area itself must just be very, very convenient for him, you know?
Yeah.
Because he's on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And like it's a windy out road as well. Like it's not like he couldn't just be happened upon by someone.
Well, it's not a very trafficked road, to be fair.
I know but which would mean that anybody who would see him would definitely know him. Because he's a local, like.
Maybe they all know there.
Maybe it's John the Wanker from the bottom of the road.
Do you have anything else on your script?
I do. Do you not like talking about that's? I feel like I needed to get that off my.
You have been. That happened a while ago now, and you're still thinking about it. Oh, I have a story.
Go on.
So
do I know the story first?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
I was driving home the other day.
Oh my God.
Normally on the main road, and sometimes I'll take the back roads, which are very back roads through forestry and stuff.
Yeah.
Not incredibly well travelled. Driving along, minding my own business, turned the corner, and pulled in at the side of the road, small country lane, is a car on fire, like blazing on fire.
Yeah, 420 blaze.
Like absolutely in flames. Just pulled in and beside the ditch. There's another car pulled in further down. They'd just driven past it. A car behind me went to pass me out, and I stood on the horn. And then I rolled down the window, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And he was like, do you think it's safe to drive past? And I was like, no, it's not safe. How inconvenient. How many on fire cars are you meeting every day that you can't go back along and drive away somewhere else?
Yeah.
Also, there could be people in the car. Like,
yeah.
Like, forget about driving past. Like what the fuck? So there was people pulled in just around the corner.
Yes.
2 people pulled in, standing around the car with lights on and stuff. So I was like, they have to be involved. So I better go check with them just before I call any related emergency services.
Yeah.
And I was like, you all right? And he was like, oh yeah, just had a flat tire. And I was like, our car went on fire. And he was like, what? And I was like, what? He was like, no, she just, because he pointed back down the road. And I was like, who had a flat tire? And then, no, he's like, no, this lady here, we're just changing it with her. And I was like, there's a car on fire down the road. And he was like, what? And I was like, there is a car
It was engulfed in flames.
Engulfed in flames.
There was probably 20 feet of flame.
It had to be set on fire. There's no way.
No way.
There's no way this was electrical fire. My immediate thought was it was something criminal related, which is why I didn't go too close to it. Now, it was so inflamed, there was nothing I could obviously do for anyone in there anyway.
Yeah.
So when I saw them back up the road, I was like, surely they have something to do with it. And it was at the drive of someone's house. So I was like, are you... Oh my God. What is going on? And then he was like, okay, I'll call whoever. So headed away, but I've heard no more about it since.
You not hearing your man, and then him shouting, it's a flat tire, and you saying, it's on fire. I was in Specsavers this morning, as us speckledy people like to do.
Yeah.
And Specsavers do hearing tests now, right? And I was in tears when I got into the Jeep after this, right? So it's packed. It's midterm break in Ireland, which means everybody brings their kids shopping. inside and Specsavers, and it's packed. Everybody's waiting for people. There's like a few different like little kiosks, and I'm standing there waiting to collect glasses. There's a man in his 50s who I feel bad for because he's gone in for a hearing test and now he's attempting to pay for the hearing test in his hearing aids. But the shop is so busy, he cannot hear a word that your one is saying to him. So she was like, oh yeah, you'll just have to come back in next week and collect them. And he was like, I need to get them tested next week. And she was like, no, you need to collect them next week. And he was like, I'm collecting them now. And she was like, no, you need to come back in. And it was the identical, exactly like the Rubber Bandits prank call. It was like, I can't come in today. It is I was shaking behind him. Do you know when you're laughing and your mouth is shut and your like nose is curdling? I just could not. And then your one walked around the counter and was like shouting at your man. There's people turning around. It's like, you can collect them next week.
They must have to deal with that all the time, surely, though.
Yeah.
Was he elderly?
No, he's in his 50s.
No.
He wasn't elderly at all.
And you were laughing at him, the poor man.
I didn't. I openly didn't laugh, but I did laugh when I was in the comfort of my own home and then on a podcast and thousands of people are going to listen to it.
Yeah, now you're outing him.
Yeah, it was. Just sometimes things just happen and they're so hilariously funny and you're on your own and you're like, I want there to be 5 people here with me.
Isn't it a shame that there's no way of reproducing that kind of laughter?
No.
There's no way of reproducing that kind of joy.
But it's as well that laughter's so funny when it's somewhere you cannot laugh at that person.
Yeah.
Like that makes it way, way funnier.
Can't tell me.
So we're right on time. Thanks very much for listening. As always, if you want coaching or anything like that, check out the Sika Strength app. We also have consultations available to book, so you can book those at sikastrength.com. There'll be a link down below. And thanks very much for listening.